GameRanks presents another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight up gameplay and some of our thoughts on the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, your host, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Fortnite. It's a difficult game to talk about. I mean, seeing as kind of what it's categorized as, Fortnite is an eventual free-to-play game, very much designed as such, but as of right now, it's paid early access. I know, both of those things are worth entire videos worth of discussion. You probably definitely have your own opinions, and I'll get back to that later, because this is a tricky one. I feel weird about this game. I like it, but I have problems with it. But let's try to talk about the game first, and then the structure second. So, game first, Fortnite seems fun. At least at first, the core gameplay loop is really fun. It's all about defending a thing against waves of zombies. You run around and quickly scavenge and gather materials to craft. It feels less repetitive and boring than other more survival style games, and it's more arcadey and quick. Like, yeah, you're just staring at a tree and hacking it with a hammer, but here it's a little easier and a little quicker and a little more involved. You take all your stuff back to your area and then you build up a fort. You build up walls, windows, doors, and all sorts of traps and defenses to surround that area that you're supposed to defend. The zombies show up, and then it's up to you to defend for a certain amount of time with little variations here and there. Whether your traps are good enough, and usually early on they're not, you gotta jump into the combat with some simple melee and third-person shooting. While the combat, though, is really simple, you know, some characters have some ults and some support abilities, but that's really it. It does feel satisfying. Guns have some actual pop to them, and a sword kinda gets old, but it still looks cool. But when it boils down, I think at a base level, it's a really good combination of tower defense and survival. For me, it scratches both of those itches pretty well. It's designed for up to 4 players co-op, and when you get a good experienced group playing and building, that's where Fortnite is definitely at its best. Because building is pretty awesome. It's clearly where the game shines and shows that the core gameplay was definitely a labor of love here. It's designed around being easy to use and quick to build on the fly, and it absolutely works. It's very easy to swap between running and gunning and build mode very quickly to quickly throw things up, but still have a good amount of control on it at the same time. There's a really good balance between it feeling super basic and accessible and having enough control to make more complex forts, building and stacking stuff, almost feeling kind of like Fallout 4 settlements or even a bit of Minecraft. Making a cool fort feels great and kind of rewarding in an obsessive way, especially if you're into those things. But funneling zombies and like getting them to hit the right traps and stuff and watching it all work is really satisfying. As I go deeper though, things change. Fortnite's structure is not quite what you'd expect. Fortnite is actually mission-based, kind of. It's all essentially one big grind. You know, you progress through a map with levels of increasing rank and difficulty, and it's within this whole interface that you bounce around, replay older levels, grind through, and maybe play again through a level with a friend, and then micromanage all your in-game items and crafting and stuff. But then there's also certain missions that bring you back to your persistent home-based fort that you can keep building upon. There's a lot going on here, and it's dense and obtuse. There's a bit of a learning curve and a long tutorial early play feel that just kind of takes so long just because there's so much to explain. There's a lot of systems here, so let me take a deep breath. First, there's hero and character progression. Pretty standard stuff. You earn and unlock playable heroes. You know, you can draw different ones with random rankings and values and just kind of the luck of the draw, and you get to spend earned things to level them up and increase their attack, their health, and all that stuff. Then there's also a skill tree, which works more as a general overall skill tree, not just locked to a hero, that earns you new ways to tackle all sorts of things like slots for your meta base, as well as just standard upgrades like health or shields or attack power. Then there's weapons and a whole system within that. You can earn these schematics that allow you to craft new weapon types, but the weapons themselves don't last forever. They all have their own durability, but thankfully you can break them down and recycle them and use them to get new ones. Thankfully, with all the stuff you earn or craft, from weapons to more importantly like the big stuff like traps and components for building, they're all persistent, meaning stuff you scrounge up during play carries over with you, which I do like. Then there's also managing survivors in almost like a smaller meta game. You can unlock survivors to use in a sort of metagame that gives you like these bonuses in game from designating these people. You use these people with the best stats and assign them to certain roles within your base, like protecting your home base, and to have people actually go out and earn build materials for you and stuff like that. You're earning these survivors pretty much like everything else in the game pretty often, so a lot of times these can be really micromanaged and down to retiring them and rolling them into new survivors. It gives you nice little bonuses while you're actually playing in game, but it doesn't really do much. It's not really that fulfilling. But then, of course, because it's the type of model of of the game, there's currencies and loot. You can spend earned currency to unlock llama pinatas, which you can then bust open to earn more loot. You could buy more of that currency with real money to get more of these loot boxes, but the game gives them out frequently enough that I never really felt pushed to spend a dime, thankfully. It's all very much there though, it's not hiding, and it's all clear that all of this stuff I just broke down previously, from the actual structure of the game and missions to the loot and leveling and all that stuff, all focuses around this free-to-play model pretty strongly. And that for me is a major downer. But the big question with all these meta things and micromanaging systems, for me, even as someone who does love some systems deep games, is why is this all here? Some of this is just not that fun. I think for me, the biggest problem is that the loot doesn't really matter much to me. You get a lot of it, and even when you don't, you're usually totally good with what you got. So when I play, I'm not really chasing loot, I'm just chasing that gameplay. And that's where I think, like I said earlier, the game shines. But still, even that is imperfect. Until you get to Plankerton, things stay kind of the same for a while. I've seen a lot of people throwing around the repetitive word on Reddit and stuff. I don't know how repetitive it really is, but I think it can dry up pretty quickly for some people. Enemy types don't shake up too much, at least early on, and there's not much of a challenge, not until, like I said, you get to Plankerton. It's all around 4-player co-op, but a lot of the encounters aren't very long considering all the build and all that, and honestly not always as satisfying as it could be. Level design is pretty sparse too, with just a few different backdrops, but I will say the standout is definitely the suburb mission levels. These are like more open levels with plenty of secrets and stuff to find, as well as different side quests that you can do before you do the main thing that makes your life easier, as long as you actually have the players willing to cooperate and peruse the map before triggering the actual defense sequence modes. There's a lot of fun to be had with that stuff. I want more of this, honestly. If Epic is listening and this game is really early access and still very much in development, I want more fun maps, more modes, more play, and less nonsense in menus. The game is still early access, so things will be changed and added, and I really hope that could be the case here. I'm hoping it gets more modes like even PvP or more horde mode centric stuff in the future that just focuses on just that and longer play. But it also really helps that playing with friends makes the game the most fun. I had quite a bit of fun, like I've been saying, playing hours and hours of Fortnite. It's not perfect, but I really enjoy everything in-game. It's outside gameplay, and once you start really thinking about the rest of the game, that things start to feel a little disappointing. It's free-to-play, element heavy, and being that it's paid early access right now, that itself is already a hard enough sell as it is, let alone having microtransactions and an entire game built around it. It will eventually be free to play, but paying for it right now is something you need to think long and hard about. I know a lot of people won't bother until it's free, and that's a logical decision. I think there's a lot of fun stuff to be had, but also a lot of obtuse stuff to get annoyed at. Personally, I can ignore it and still hop in with a party and have a great time with friends, but I know that might not be the case for everyone. But that's Fortnite. It's promising, it's fun, but it's far from perfect. I broke down how it works, some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion thrown in there, but now I absolutely want to hear yours because I can't stop thinking about this game for some reason. Like, it took me so long to get my thoughts down here because I did find myself kind of sucked into it, I will admit. But I do want to know what you're thinking, whether you've been playing since the alpha, maybe if you've been one of those hardcore community guys, because this game does have a nice little community, or maybe you're just someone on the outside and you bought in, or you're just looking at YouTube videos. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know everyone's perspective here. So let's talk down in the comments. If you got some questions for me, I'll be down there talking as much as I possibly can, but you know where to find me. I'm always on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino as well. Thank you guys so much for coming around though. Clicking the like button helps us out and lets us know that you want to see more before you buy videos, but if you are new, you should subscribe because we do this stuff all the time. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.